Your water utility has a reservoir. If the pump stops for an hour, water keeps coming out of your tap because there are millions of gallons sitting up on a hill waiting for you. Your gas utility has storage fields, actual underground caverns holding a winter's worth of fuel. The electric grid has essentially nothing. The electricity running your air conditioner right now was manufactured a fraction of a second ago, somewhere within a few hundred miles of you, and it will be consumed before you finish this sentence. There is no tank. There is no reserve pile. And the obvious question, why not just store it, turns out to have a much more interesting answer than we haven't gotten around to it. Start with what the grid actually is. Not a network that delivers a product, a machine that holds an equilibrium. Every second of every day, the total amount of power being generated across an interconnection has to equal the total amount being consumed. Not approximately, continuously. Every time you switch on a kettle, something, somewhere, generates slightly more. And that balance has a physical readout, frequency. In North America, the grid runs at 60 cycles per second, and that number is set by the rotation speed of thousands of enormous synchronized machines. When demand exceeds generation, those machines are being asked to do more work than their fuel supports, so they slow down, very slightly, and frequency dips below 60. When generation runs ahead of demand, they speed up. So grid operators aren't managing a warehouse. They're managing a needle. Frequency is the balance, made visible. One clarification, because these get conflated. The spinning mass in those generators does by the grid a few seconds after a sudden loss. That's inertia, and it's a different video. Seconds. What we're talking about here is hours. Moving energy from noon to 8 p.m. That's a completely different problem, and it needs a completely different machine. Here's the part that trips people up. Electricity isn't a substance. You can't put it in a tank, because it isn't a thing sitting still. It's energy in motion, charge flowing through a conductor. The instant it stops moving, it isn't electricity anymore. Which means storing electricity is always a lie of convenience. What you're really doing is converting it into some other form of energy, chemical bonds in a battery, water sitting at the top of a hill, a heavy wool spinning in a vacuum, holding it there, and then converting it back. And every conversion costs you. The Energy Information Administration puts round-trip efficiency for both utility-scale batteries and pumped storage at about 80%. Put 10 units in, get 8 back. That's actually impressive engineering. It's also a permanent tax on the entire idea. Then there's density, which is the brutal one. A gallon of gasoline holds roughly 33 kilowatt-hours of energy and weighs about 6 pounds. To hold 33 kilowatt-hours in lithium-ion, at current commercial energy densities, you're carrying something in the range of 300 pounds. 50 times the mass for the same energy. Fossil fuels aren't just a power source. They were always the best storage medium we had. For most of the last century, the grid's answer to storage was water. Pumped hydro. You build 2 reservoirs at different elevations. When power is cheap and abundant, you run pumps and push water uphill. When you need it back, you let it fall through turbines. The United States has around 22 gigawatts of it, and it works beautifully. It also requires 2 large reservoirs, a mountain between them, and about a decade of permitting. Almost none has been built here since the 1970s. We didn't stop because it was a bad idea. We stopped because we ran out of easy places to put it. Then, very recently, something changed fast. Lithium-ion costs collapsed, and utility-scale batteries went from a pilot project to the second largest source of new capacity on the grid. In 2024 alone, the country added 10.4 gigawatts, and total U.S. battery capacity passed pumped hydro for the first time. 2025 set another record on top of that, and the EIA expects 2026 to add 24.3 gigawatts, putting the U.S. total near 65 gigawatts. That is a genuinely enormous build-out. It is not hype, and it still does not mean what most headlines imply it means. Because a battery has 2 ratings, and the headlines only ever quote one. There's power, gigawatts, how fast it can push energy out, And there's energy, gigawatt-hours. How much is in there before it's empty? A garden hose and a fire hose can both empty a swimming pool. Only one of them tells you how big the pool is. Almost every grid battery in the United States is built to somewhere between 2 and 4 hours of duration. That isn't a technical ceiling. It's an economic one. You're paying for cells by the kilowatt hour. The daily price spread you're arbitraging is only a few hours wide. And past about 4 hours, each extra hour earns less and costs the same. So do the arithmetic the headline skips. 65 gigawatts at roughly 4 hours is about 260 gigawatt hours of stored energy. The United States consumes on the order of 11,000 gigawatt hours of electricity every single day. Every utility-scale battery in America, fully charged, discharged all at once, runs the country for about half an hour. Now, that number sounds like a takedown, and it shouldn't be. It's a description of a tool. Nobody built a 4-hour device to run the country for a week. They built it to solve a 4-hour problem, and there is a very real 4-hour problem. Look at California. Solar output collapses to zero over about 90 minutes at sunset, right as people get home, cook dinner, and turn everything on. For a decade, that evening ramp was the hardest hour on the system, and it was covered by gas plants standing by all day to run for 3 hours. CAISO now holds roughly 16.5 gigawatts of batteries and more than 62 gigawatt hours. On June 23, 2026, they set a record, 12.6 gigawatts discharging at 10 past 8 in the evening. Charged at noon on surplus solar. Delivered at the exact moment the system used to strain. That's not a consolation prize. That's the machine doing precisely the job it was designed for. So, why can't we just store electricity? Because electricity is a flow, not a stock. Because every way of holding it means converting it into something else and paying a toll both directions. And because the storage we've built is sized for the problem we could afford to solve, the daily one, sunset to bedtime. And that is a fundamentally different problem from the seasonal one. The 4-hour gap is being closed right now at extraordinary speed. The 4-day gap is not. A still, overcast week in January across an entire interconnection is a multi-terawatt-hour problem. There is no technology deployed at scale that answers it. And every grid operator planning past 2035 has that week somewhere in a spreadsheet, with a number next to it that nobody has figured out how to pay for.